Alright, so we talked about the Royal Warden. He's okay. He also has the Relentless March ability, which gives nearby core units plus 1 inch movement. Now, if you happen to pull the, whatever it is, Protocol of the Sudden Storm, you'll be rocking 7 inch movement with your guys. Basically, as good as an Eldar. And he does have a little bit of shooting, which is nice for picking off whatevers. So, in hindsight, he is a pretty good backfield unit. I kept trying to move him up with the main army, and he ended up just sort of like running back to try and troubleshoot things. So, I don't know. I've got some... if somebody's going to get cut from the team, it's probably the Royal Warden. Let's talk about Yol Overlord on foot. Now, what I did is I gave this guy the Veil of Dark. By the way, Veil of Darkness, it's an auto take, in my opinion. So what I would do is I would just put this guy in the backfield with a unit of 20 warriors. My opponents all knew what he was going to do. I don't think any of them were surprised by it. And on turn 1 in the movement phase, he can scoop them up and basically teleport them somewhere. So I give him a Void Scythe, which is the stronger of the 2 scythe weapons that he can have. And the Veil of Darkness. The Chronomancer drops an invuln onto the warriors, and I just go create a problem. If my opponent has sealed off their backfield, then I just go right up in front of something that I want to destroy, put all these guys within the 6 inches of him, because that's how it works. Both units have to be 6 inches wholly within each other. So what happens is, if you got this guy and 5 Necron... can you see what I'm doing there? Yeah. If you have this guy and 5 Necron warriors, that's 6 inches. And then you put 5 behind, and then 5 and 5, and then of course you have to put a guy behind him to have that sweet, sweet coherency. Then you basically have this line of guys. Now, if your area is constricted, you can still, because they're 9 inches away, so that gives you 3 inches of space to get the 12-inch gun in range. Long story short, you can almost always drop these guys advantageously somewhere. Do it on the first, and most people are surprised, because I drop them in front of hordes of orc boys, I drop them in front of incubi, I put them wherever. And be very aggressive with these guys. With the 5-up invuln that they have from the Chronomancer, plus the My Will Be Done, so usually they have this, and then they have the Chronomancer's defensive ability too. So that makes these warriors, they can blow something up. And then I charge in. I use a command reroll if needed for this guy. And I have the typically the warriors will charge in too, if I want to tie something up. And it basically, it creates a problem. It also, as a side effect, this is really great because if your deployment zone is constricted, because some of the missions are like that, it's hard to get 3 giant units of Necron warriors positioned advantageously. And usually you want these guys to be moving up to take the 2 objectives that are almost invariably in the middle of the board. So you end up, this ends up basically freeing up space in your deployment zone. You just put these guys in the back. You can do it, and it saves time too. You just put them in a group, put this guy next to him, you put him, you can link him in with these guys to make sure they have the Relentless March thing for plus 1 inch movement, and so you get some coverage. But then after that, he disconnects, and it's all about the command. The command barge has to basically support these 2 units of warriors after that. Now, the command barge, oh my gosh, I love this thing. It clocks in at, I do believe, 150 points, something like that. But for that, you get plus 1 toughness, you get 9 wounds instead of 5, so plus 4 wounds, you get a 12-inch fly move with this thing. It's insane. The only thing is he can't take the more powerful of the 2 scythe weapons, so watch out for that. You can give him the relic scythe, which I did. I turned him into a bit of a close combat beast, but he's not really, because he only has 4 attacks. So, but with 2-up to hit and 2-up, and I gave him the reroll wounds thing, Eternal Madness Warlord trait. So he would wound on a 2-up and also, excuse me, not always, but, and then he would also get to reroll those, which is nice. So the relic that I gave him was Void Reaper, and so that's strength +2, so it'd have 7 strength. Let's see if I'm actually showing you the model that I'm talking about. Here we go. Command Barge. All right. So, and it's -4 to the save. That's about as good as it gets. Damage 3. And it ignores rules that ignore wounds. That's a huge deal. That's very disappointing to people when they're like trying to feel no pain things away and they're like, yeah, actually you can't. And so that makes, my point is this guy's dangerous. And with fly and his aura abilities and stuff, usually he would make it to at least turn 3, usually turn 4, because and he's supporting those warriors. He's a beat stick that kind of is waiting in the wings if those warriors are threatened, and he can support the warriors. Something charges in, they can't kill them all typically, and then this guy can come in and do some damage. Now I want to talk about the Canoptic Doomstalker. First off, this guy has a problem. And the problem is that he wants to do 2 things at once. The Doomstalker's ability is that if something is charged within 6 inches, it can also fire Overwatch. Now, my tournament judge pre-ruled this for me, and I do believe it's correct, that he doesn't have to pay a CP for that. And there's something in the advanced rules that basically says some things have Overwatch like built in. So, all right, I'm looking for that Canoptic Doomstalker. Okay, so a few things about the Canoptic Doomstalker. One, it has a very tall physical profile. So usually this thing can see over buildings, but won't get any cover. So you may as well, what I did is I would actually just put it on the tallest building I could find and just defy people to shoot, to shoot it away. And it became like this huge distraction. Like, people were so worried about that Doomstalker, they just had to get rid of it. Also, it has these 2 weaker guns, just basic Gauss flares. And don't forget to shoot those, is all I gotta say. Because this guy can also help sweep things out of the backfield. Like if you have those deep strikers or a couple of guys got onto a backfield objective and you gotta get rid of them and your crypto thralls can't quite do the job, this guy can divert those guns and take care of that. The main gun, so he does have this weird, what is it called? Overwatch ability. But the problem is he uses his heavier gun profile only if he doesn't move. So he wants to move to keep up with the army, but he also doesn't want to move. So right now I'm just using the Canoptic Doomstalker as a backfield thing. And quite frankly, I think the Doomsday Arc will be better because it has a huge profile, meaning physically the model takes up more space and can block more of that backfield from having deep strike ability things showing up. And it's just such a tough call. The gun is like iffy at best. It's heavy D6 and strength 10, -5, D6 and blast. And again, it wants to be 2 things. So like if you get in close combat with it, because of the blast, you can't shoot things in close combat with it. So it's weird. But in practice, just as a simple gun platform, I found it to be very effective and a lot of fun. And it works people. This gun really works people up. They really worry about it. And blast means it mitigates a lot of that randomness of having random number of shots, D6 shots basically. It also has a 4-up invuln straight up, so it doesn't have living metal like not leaving metal. What is it called? Quantum shielding. Oh, and by the way, the Catacomb Command Barge has quantum shielding too. So just absolutely, the Command Barge is a total winner all the way around. You're playing an extra 50 points to get fly, 12-inch move, and the increased toughness and wounds. Just why don't I take 2? I don't know. Because you can give Veil of Darkness to this guy, I think. I don't know, I'll have to look that up. Got to be careful with things. Okay, another LVP, things that are getting dropped from the list. I was paying 30 points and 30 points for a Resurrection Orb on both of them. And even gave my Command Barge guy, oh wait, did I? Anyway, one of them had the Orb of Eternity, giving reanimation through the orb at a 4-up instead. And it really, quite frankly, they're not that, like, these guys are dead, or these guys are dead, or something happens that I can't use the orb. It's not great, quite frankly, and it doesn't even bring back that many guys. Even if the unit's completely gone, it'll bring back 6 or 7 guys, which granted is a real bargain for a 30-point investment. But wouldn't you rather just have those guys to begin with, actually buy something that from turn 1 is actually going to be kicking butt on something? Yeah, I say yes to that. Okay, Veil of Darkness is what I'm looking up. No, I think the Command Barge guy can have it. Two Command Barges, having a Command Barge show up on the front lines, man, that could be a real winning maneuver. Also, the Command Barge measures things from the hull because it's a vehicle, so it has like a better aura radius as well. Like this front thing that sort of sticks out. First off, you have to be careful not to get that out of your deployment zone. You got to have a fair deployment. So yeah, but also it can, like, you know, 1 inch from that, like when you're measuring a charge from the tip of that's really something. Oh, and he has a gun on the bottom, a Gauss cannon, which is good for picking off oddball figures. So, all right, let's talk about the Chronomancer. People swear by the Chronomancer. I'm actually dropping him from my army. And I took -2 CPs to my army just to get an extra detachment to include this model. The Chronomancer, he can give a 5-up save from his Chronometron to a unit within 9 inches, so good radius. And he can be a really good backfield defender. But at the same time, he wants to keep up with the army and maximize that Chronometron save by putting it on the warriors. But what I found is it didn't really help that much. Typically when people are like mass firing things, these guys were getting a 5-up save anyway. So the 5-up invuln doesn't help these guys. And other things that already have that, almost everything else in the army, they don't need it. So, but it does allow reroll to charges, which can be nice. I don't know. And his staff, he has 2 different options for staff. One shoots multiple shots at a weaker amount, and the other shoots 1 shot, the Entropic Lance. Definitely get the Entropic Lance if you're going to take a Chronomancer. This model's not available separately. You've got to buy Pariah or buy it as a separate thing online. So I don't know. I've got misgivings. Entropic Lance is 18 inches. It's a 3-up to hit. Assault 1, so you can run and still shoot it. Strength 8, -3, D3 +3 damage. That D3 +3 damage can technically snipe a character. It's brutal, but the fact is he's going to shoot that thing probably twice in a game, and chances are it's not going to do anything. So I'm sorry, Chronomancer, I am getting rid of you for the time being. Okay, last item. My purple girl. My conversion for a Nightbringer. I called ahead. I got permission to bring it. And this is a Catan. So she doesn't get that move, that free move at the beginning of the game. For one, she doesn't get any dynasty abilities, and she can't use, so at the end of the movement phase is Catan power phase. So don't forget that. Don't start shooting things and forget all her powers. Okay, first off, she gets Gaze of Death, which is really good, but it's only 9-inch range. But she automatically has that. So now for her second power, you gotta pick one of the 6 powers that there are. I usually pick one with a lot of range. My favorite one is Transdimensional Thunderbolt. It's 24 inches. She has to have line of sight. Can't pick out characters. And on a 2-up, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Then every unit within 3 inches, enemy unit, on a 4-up suffers 1 mortal wound. This usually ends up doing 4 to 6 mortal wounds. It's awesome. So I highly recommend that. There's other ones that are good. Every single turn, I use this dimensional destabilization stratagem, which I call Rando Power. So for 1 CP, you roll a d6, and all the powers are numbered 1 through 6, and she does 1 at random. Some of them kind of suck. Seismic Assault is one of those. It affects mostly like big units. Be good. And Time's Arrow, which affects only 1 like lower powerful guy. But the rest of them are really good. You can even get the same one. So when I do Transdimensional Thunderbolt twice, that is a really good day. You can also, if you want, during your command phase, you can use Strange Echoes and switch one of those powers out. If you're really feeling frisky, you can get rid of the Gaze of Death because you won't be able to use it on the first turn probably. And then just pick something else and switch that in. I think that the gate, it just depends on what you're looking at across the board. Like if it's a close combat army that wants to get in your face right away, then the closer powers like Gaze of Death are just fine, are fantastic, because your opponent's going to be up close and personal. What I do with the Nightbringer is really quite simple. I move straight up I pick a target, I pick the biggest, beefiest, scariest thing in their army, and I deploy her right in the middle, out in the open if I have to get closer. Typically in tournaments they have big buildings in the middle that you can't see through them because they're obscuring, so you're pretty safe that way. And I move her directly towards that. And she has fly, so I gotta tell you, she's pretty scary. And if your opponent doesn't have something to deal with her, she's gonna, by turn 2 or 3, she's gonna be in the back area and she's just gonna be wrecking balling everything. She's just gonna be taking care of business. 370 whopping points, but she has this nice tiny little profile here. And this is the same as the published model, by the way, so I'm not getting any sort of advantage from that. Yeah, so a lot of people would just, because the first turn or two, she's not doing that much. Turn 1, maybe she puts out maybe 3 to 5 mortal wounds. People don't worry about that too much, but they should be worried, because once she gets in the back and starts close combating things, it's crazy. I tell you more about the powers, but I think I'm wearing down just a little bit here. Okay, well, and there's really not a whole lot of strategy with it either. She has 1 attack that she gets 6 attacks on a 2-up, and one of them does multiple wounds, and then she can do 12 attacks and just do smaller amounts of wounds. It's just a 1 damage attack, and that obviously you use that against hordes. So yeah, Reaping Sweep is Strength 7, -3, 1 damage, but you do get 12 attacks with it. Now, she has an ability called Necrodermis. A lot of people have talked about this. And it makes her hard to kill. She gets a 4-up invuln. She can't lose more than 3 wounds per phase. Smart opponents will start picking away early. They'll try. I've had her one-shotted by orcs with 3 wounds in the psychic phase, 3 wounds in shooting, and 3 wounds in close combat. And then she can't, and then, because if you fail to do that, the next turn she's living metalled, and that gives her 1 wound back. So she starts regenerating those wounds, and it becomes literally impossible to kill her after a certain point. Like once she's in close combat, well, you can't shoot her anymore, so that limits the amount of phases you have to put wounds on her. So she's really, really amazing. Really amazing. Ooh, there's something. Oh, no, that's Transcendent Catan. Okay, cool, man. That is my thing about the Necrons. Oh, the thing I'm going to do, here's what I wanted to talk to you guys about. I want to talk to you about hexmark destroyers. You know I love them. They didn't quite make the cut, but hexmark destroyers is an elites unit for 75 points that also happens to be a character, and it sports 6 pistols and can also deep strike. So the thing that I found, and I hope I'm not doing it wrong, is you got to use a stratagem that gives him a relic. And I'm going to tell you what the stratagem is. The relic is Gauntlet of the Conflagrator. And the stratagem, hold on. Come on, where are my stratagems? Oh, no, went the wrong way. See, I don't know this book. I waste a lot of time looking for things. The stratagem is, it's the one that gives him a relic, basically. But I want to tell you the actual name of it. Hold on, I can do it. Dynastic Heirlooms. Thank you very much. Okay, if your Warlord has a Necrons keyword, select one Necrons character, excluding Catan Shard models, from your army, and give them 1 relic. This must be a relic that you can have. Now, you can use this stratagem twice for a 2,000 point game. And models can't have 2 relics. So anyway, you give him Gauntlet of Conflagrator is a pistol. That's important because you can shoot all your pistols. So the Hexmark can shoot his 6 pistols plus the Gauntlet. And it's a 12-inch Gauntlet, pistol 1, and then you roll a d6. Instead of doing strength, AP, and damage, you roll a d6 for every model in the unit, and on a 6, the unit suffers a mortal wound. It's awesome. That's great. So that makes the Hexmark very, very, very scary. I'll definitely be using that in my next game. And you can use etheric interception stratagem. So when they put down a deep striker, you can have that guy deep strike down and intercept them and shoot. Ha! So that's really bad. I'm definitely using that against Gene Stealer cults. And I don't know how much it'll help me, but hopefully it'll help me a little bit. And quite frankly, I'm dropping the 2 resurrection orbs. That's freeing up 60 points from my army anyway. I'm definitely dropping, I'm almost 100% to drop the Chronomancer. The Warden actually will probably make the cut after all. I love the Chronomancer model, and that's where I'm making a mistake, is that I'm playing with something that I love the model, but maybe it's not so good, and I just gotta make the change. All right, guys, that is part 2 of my Necrons strategy advice. Oh, by the way, and incidentally, a lot of the stuff that I'm using and that is awesome, the Overlord, the Warden, granted I said that I was about to cut them, the Warriors, definitely, the Crypto Thralls, those all come in the basic Indominus kit. So good job, Games Workshop. You made Indominus good. Oh, one last thing I want to show you, my cool chess clock that I love. Yep, that's right. This is an old-timey wooden one with like these little brassy knobs there. And it goes back and forth. And it's really cool. And it makes a little ticking sound. And I absolutely, absolutely love it. Do recommend. All right, thanks for tuning in.